Tomoko once humiliated a girl so badly that the girl ran home screaming. The worst part? Tomoko has no memory of it happening at all. Good evening, good morning, good afternoon. Wherever you're watching this from, we continue catching up on what's going on with WataMote until hopefully we've mostly caught up. So sit back, relax, maybe grab a warm cup of tea, and let's see what happened after the anime. Now, last time, Tomoko had a string of small disasters, then stumbled onto someone from her middle school past. A girl named Kotomi she has zero memory of, but who clearly remembers her. Today, we find out exactly what happened between them, and it's worse than you'd expect. Now, chapter 47 pays that thread off immediately, and it's rough. We get Kotomi's actual memory of middle school. Her, Tomoko, and you used to walk home together. And one day, while playing video games at Tomoko's place after you had already left, Kotomi nervously tried to admit something. That it was Valentine's Day, and she wanted to give Tomoki, Tomoko's brother, some chocolate. She could barely get the words out, stammering through it. Tomoko somehow managed to completely misread this. She decides Kotomi must be talking about something crude instead, reads her nervous blushing as something lewd, and concludes the only way to get rid of her is to drag her brother into the room and just blurt out in front of both of them the crudest possible version of what she thinks Kotomi wants. Kotomi is mortified into silence. The siblings start bickering and blaming each other, and Kotomi quietly leaves and then runs the rest of the way home screaming. After that, Kotomi ended up in a different class and barely spoke to either of them again. And in a detail that says everything about why Tomoko has no memory of this at all. In Kotomi's own recollections of that day, Tomoko isn't even really looking at her. She's off somewhere in her own head, imagining something crude instead of actually paying attention to the girl in front of her, confessing something real. Kotomi left their graduation without saying a word to her. Now back in the present, Kotomi's noticed that Tomoko's being unusually friendly lately. Completely unaware it's because Tomoko's decided, with zero actual basis, that they're both loners who should bond. After school, Kotomi overhears some boys mention the name Kuroki and realizes Tomoki goes here too. At the library, Kotomi keeps glancing at Tomoko while she eats, and Tomoko, of course flattered, assuming someone's finally taking an interest in her, gets approached. Kotomi asks about Tomoki, and it's only then that Tomoko actually remembers who she is, the one who was sexually interested in my brother. Kotomi tries gently explaining it was all just a misunderstanding, but Tomoko's already decided Kotomi's a pervert she regrets ever reconnecting with. When Kotomi finishes her attempt to patch things up, Tomoko calmly texts her brother to come over, and Kotomi, panicking, says she's not ready to actually meet him yet. As they walk together afterwards, Kotomi genuinely believes they've reconciled. Tomoko is quietly seething the entire time. Kotomi admits she didn't like Tomoko back in middle school, but feels they could get along now. And something about hearing that out loud to her face just breaks something in Tomoko. When Kotomi spots Tomoki nearby and, blushing, asks Tomoko what she should do, Tomoko assumes she's faking the innocence. And Tomoko just explodes, loudly, publicly, with Tomoki and the other students right there listening, shouting that Kotomi once came to her house just to see her brother's private parts, that she never liked her, that she'd erased her from memory entirely, and accusing her outright of only working as a librarian to prey on boys. Kotomi is left completely shattered in front of everyone while students just look on. Yeah, about that, this was really hard to read, as Tomoko isn't really just clueless here. She's actively destroying someone who was trying, awkwardly but very sincerely, to make peace with her. Yeah, that was pretty bad. Now, chapter 48 turns the Tomoko-Kotomi dynamic into a genuine, petty little rivalry. And it's almost a relief after how heavy 47 was, even though it's still pretty mean-spirited on both sides. Tomoko walks into the bathroom, smells cheese, and hides in a stall to catch whoever is responsible. And it turns out to be Kotomi, eating lunch alone in there, who gets caught mid-dramatic trash shot into the bin. She tries to defend herself, but Tomoko just walks out silently, throwing her a look of pure pity. Kotomi seethes at this. Later on, in gym clothes, Tomoko passes Kotomi chatting with an actual friend, and the mere sight of Kotomi having a friend visibly rattles her. Kotomi clocks this and gives her a proud little smile, which only makes Tomoko angrier. At the library, Tomoko tries to sound intellectual, name-dropping a novel, and Kotomi just outclasses her on her own turf. Then a boy named Hatsushiba comes to check out books, and Kotomi, noticing Tomoko's attention on him, wrongly assumes Tomoko's interested in him and starts being extra friendly toward him just to needle her. When Tomoko tries to strike up a conversation with him as he's leaving, he brushes her off, claiming he's busy. Kotomi watches the whole exchange and quietly savors the win. The next day, Tomoko decides to one-up her by proving how close she is with her own brother. Texting Tomoki that she's stolen his lunchbox and he needs to come to the library to retrieve it. She hides behind the bookshelf, waits for him, and jumps out to surprise him from behind. Except he doesn't notice her in time and accidentally elbows her right in the face, giving her a nosebleed. He ends up gently walking her to the infirmary by hand, while Kotomi watches the whole thing unfold, visibly jealous, wishing she were the one in Tomoko's position. All in all, there's something almost comforting about this chapter despite the meanness between them. It's the first time Tomoko's rival feels like a real person with her own petty insecurities rather than just someone Tomoko's hurting one-sidedly. Chapter 49 is where the bigger story actually starts. The quiet, almost accidental setup for everything that's coming. In class, students are asked to research possible destinations for their upcoming school trip and write down why they'd want to go. Tomoko, who doesn't even want to go on the school trip at all, spends her library time looking up funny cat pictures instead, half listening to classmates excitedly debating real destinations around her. She feels a flicker of guilt, briefly considers faking illness to skip the whole thing like she did last year, and instead starts eliminating options one by one for the most Tomoko reasons imaginable. Skiing in Niigata gets crossed off because she imagines herself being swarmed by smiling snow demons. Okinawa goes because she pictures her own seaweed-covered body washing up on a beach. Kyushu, Hokkaido, and Kyoto all get momentarily dismissed too, since she imagines art museum statues silently judging her for having no friends. That leaves Kyushu as the winner by default, until she realizes the travel time between cities there is brutal, and she imagines being trapped on the long bus ride sitting next to Ogino. So, purely by process of elimination, choosing whichever destination has the shortest bus rides, she marks down Kyoto. Still completely uninterested, she watches a tourism video about Kyoto later, which happens to include a fountain, which immediately makes her need to use the bathroom. When she comes back to the library, daydreaming about whether she could just hide somewhere in the hotel for 4 days instead of actually going on the trip, she finds a crowd of classmates gathered around the terminal she'd left pause on that same Kyoto video, genuinely excited about it. When the votes get tallied, Kyoto wins, and Tomoko just walks away, completely resigned to it. It's really worth pointing out at this point, almost as a punchline, that the entire trajectory of the next stretch of Tomoko's life, everything that's about to happen, gets set in motion by someone who chose Kyoto purely to minimize bus time. There's no fate or destiny here, just laziness and avoidance accidentally leading to somewhere important. Now chapter 50 opens with Tomoko exhausted, head down on her desk, just looking at her phone. The narration above her simply reads, "Somehow, just living is." She's dragging herself down the hallway, complaining internally about being put in supplementary PE. Though she does admit, almost as an aside, that she'd skipped doubles tennis practice 15 separate times, so it's not exactly unfair. She remembers her teacher Ogino cheerfully offering to practice with her one-on-one after class, all enthusiasm, while Tomoko just wanted it to be over. Now back in the present, she spots a girl named Akane laughing with a boy and a girl in the hallway and immediately changes direction to avoid them, silently wondering why they're even still at school. She passes the student council room and catches Megumi staring out at the balcony, looking genuinely beautiful in the light. Megumi notices someone watching, while Tomoko's just quietly stunned by her. Then, at the library, she sees Kotomi sitting alone, reading in an empty room, looking pretty too. And Tomoko, completely missing the social cue, walks right up and proudly announces her new theory. Empty classrooms at dusk apparently just makes girls pretty. Kotomi has no idea what to do with that information, so Tomoko decides to test her theory on herself. She sneaks into an empty classroom, takes a selfie, and it doesn't look the same. She adjusts the angle, tries again, no luck. And then, right as the camera is about to fire on the third attempt, a bird flies past the window and distracts her. When she checks the photo afterwards, it's actually stunning. The accident worked. The next day, she goes back to recreate the moment on purpose, posing in the twilight, daydreaming about some cute boy walking in and asking what she's looking at. In her fantasy, she casually says, "the sunset," and invites him to watch with her. Back in reality, a boy actually does walk in, goes to his desk, starts to leave, notices her watching him, pauses for a second, then leaves anyway, glancing back at her once from the doorway. Tomoko, of course, is disappointed. She's been picturing the exact scene you see in every manga and light novel. A mysterious girl in the sunset, a boy drawn in by curiosity. And instead nothing happened. She tells herself she shouldn't pose in her own actual classroom, since even if she doesn't recognize this boy, he might recognize her as that girl who's into penises, thanks to her reputation from a few chapters back. So she starts hopping between different empty classrooms each day, trying to manufacture an air of mystery, and does this for a whole week, genuinely confused why nobody's coming to find her. Then Ogino bursts in, drags her out to the tennis field, and demands to know, bluntly, why Tomoko can't just be straightforward, and why she thinks just sitting around waiting to be noticed will ever actually work. Tomoko's stunned that Ogino somehow knows exactly what she's been doing. Ogino insists she's only stepping in this once. Tell people yourself next time. And it turns out that Ogino had simply spotted her watching the tennis club practice after school and decided to just hand her a racket and pull her in herself. There's a real thesis statement here in this chapter. Tomoko keeps waiting for the universe to notice her, when the actual lesson, delivered bluntly by an adult who clearly sees through her, is that nothing happens unless you actually say something yourself. Now chapter 51 is a pretty wild spiral even by Tomoko's standards. In class, she notices Hina applying lipstick, mumbles out a stammering compliment about her lip balm, and Hina, completely casually, just offers to let her try it. Tomoko immediately panics internally about the idea of sharing lip balm even with another girl, before Akane calls Hina away mid-handoff. Left alone, Tomoko touches her own lip and spirals into a whole internal monologue. This was basically an indirect kiss. She insists she's not a lesbian, while in the same breath admitting she enjoys sexually harassing you in a way she dismisses as totally normal. Confesses she wouldn't mind fondling boobs and decides that if it were specifically you, kissing would honestly be fine too. Capping it off with, "but that doesn't mean I'm not straight." It's a genuinely funny, messy bit of self-denial that says a lot about how little Tomoko actually examines her own feelings. From there, she starts reading everything Hina does as romantic interest. When Hina casually scoots her desk over to share a textbook, Tomoko decides that this is Hina coming on to her. During a break, she sees Hina head to the bathroom with Akane and follows, convinced Hina secretly wanted to go with her instead. Hiding in a stall, she overhears Hina casually lending the same lip balm to Akane, and Tomoko, feeling bizarrely betrayed, bolts out of the bathroom and trips in the hallway hard enough to give herself a nosebleed. Megumi happens to see this, helps her up, hands her a handkerchief, and takes her by hand to walk her to the infirmary. And of course, Tomoko, feeling Megumi's fingers laced through hers, immediately reads this as yet another sign of romantic interest as well. When you think about it, this chapter is a good one to play almost completely for comedy. The through line is that Tomoko has absolutely zero calibration for normal, ordinary kindness versus romantic interest, and every single person who's just being nice to her gets swept up in her own delusions. Overall, Ogino's lesson landed, but it didn't magically fix anything with Kotomi. That's still ahead. Next time though, a stranger online who turns out to be someone Tomoko already knows, a fight neither of them saw coming, and finally the start of something like a real friendship. If you like this content so far, please leave a like and subscribe, as that helps this small channel a little bit. Come back next time as we continue trying to catch up with WataMote. Take care and go out there and make the world a slightly better place.